Welcome, dear Thriver, to Thriver TV, the channel where you learn how to heal for real from narcissistic abuse in powerful and direct ways that defy contemporary methods. Okay, today let's talk about how to ignore a narcissist that is driving you crazy. And for the purpose of this episode, let's imagine that this is a narcissist who you can't go no contact with. Maybe a family member or a narcissist that you're parallel parenting with, or a neighbor, or, maybe it's somebody that you work with. It's important to know how to handle a narcissist that you can't go no contact with, because the narcissist's antics are disordered. He or she doesn't think and operate like a normal person, and they love to drag everybody else down, who they can, into their deep pit of disorder with them. It's how they get narcissistic supply. It's how they get attention and an energy feed from people. Narcissists are experts at making you go nuts, and they love doing that. So let's dive into how to ignore it and not let it affect you. Let's have a look at taking the power away from the narcissist, because this is so important. And what I want you to do with this information, I want you to flip this thing on its head, meaning that you take all power away from a narcissist who was trying to trigger you and drive you crazy. And the way to flip this on its head is to make this all about you rather than them. And this isn't about blaming you or anything like that. It's about taking your power back. And there's a really great reason for why you need to do this, because trying to talk sense to the narcissist is a lost cause. He or she is not going to agree with your version of conversation and events and fall into line with you. No amount of sensible talk, reconciliation, or you getting angry and cracking it with the narcissist is going to make one scrap of difference. There's only one way to handle a narcissist that is driving you crazy, and I'm about to explain it soon, as well as give you very easy to understand examples regarding how to do this. And you're going to be setting it up so that you can ignore the narcissist and not take on the rubbish. But let me get very, very, very clear about this so that you understand it. Because you have to understand this piece. Narcissists are in our life for us to reach spiritual evolution and personal empowerment. It's for you to graduate yourself in your wisdom, your power, your truth, your authenticity. And if you just try to ignore a narcissist, meaning just try to hide out, and you don't face this evolution, this call, this opportunity, if you just try to stay out of the firing line, then there is no growth in that for you. In fact, you haven't stood up to the plate. You haven't created the empowered graduation that your soul is urging you to do via this person who is a total pain in the butt. And what that would mean if you don't take this opportunity is people like this are going to keep showing up in your life, and they're not going to stop targeting you and triggering you and driving you crazy. Is this any way to live? No. I promise you that you can do so much better than that. And I'm going to explain to you how. And yes, you are going to get to the full privilege of being able to ignore this person, but it needs to be done on your terms, when you're in your power and untriggered, and not just trying to hide and avoid the crap and, not wanting the confrontation. What I'm talking to you about is setting an empowered boundary. And let's look at this. I'm going to explain this to you in easy steps, and then we're going to pull it apart. So the first step is you don't respond to anything that the narcissist says or does that's crappy, and they do that a lot. You don't tell them what they're doing is wrong. You don't try to refute their behaviour, and you don't try to lecture, prescribe, argue, amend, or inform. Why not? You would think you would do that. Why not? Is because all of these things are a complete and utter waste of time. all the narcissist will do is pick up any and all of that information, twist it and turn it, and throw it back in your face and create more insanity out of it. So much so that you're going to feel like your head is spinning. You're losing a grip on reality, and you're only going to get more triggered, incensed, and so much more deranged in the process. So get this piece. Don't respond and hook back into anything that they've said or done that is rubbish. Rather, step 2, which is just state your truth about this. You've worked out what you will and won't accept because you know what your truth and your values are on this topic, and you say this in as little as possible words. Less is so much best. And as I said, I'm going to give you the real life examples about this, so hang in there. All right, now step 3. If you don't receive decent behaviour that falls into line with what you will accept, then you completely ignore everything else. You've laid down the rules that you live your life by, regardless of what anybody else is or isn't doing. You set the boundary that the narcissist probably will not respect at all. However, none of that matters. They don't get your energy. You leave the room, the home, you hang up on them, you take yourself away, you leave their life, if you have to. All right, there are your 3 steps. Now let me give you some real life examples about those 3 steps. A dear friend of mine had a shocking narcissistic father. He was a train wreck, and he was in a nursing home, and his behaviour was atrocious. She did a lot of healing work with NARP, my Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program, and she wanted to remain in contact with him without being driven crazy by him. So, after doing the inner work, she spoke to him over the phone, laying down calmly and clearly what she would accept in his presence and what she wouldn't accept. No longer would she tolerate his name calling, demeaning put-downs, or him asking her for money to support his online gambling addictions. She told him that if he started to do any of those things, she would hang up the phone or leave if she was visiting him. So when she said, what her line in the sand was, he came back with ridiculous comments. And let's face it, it was never as if he could just hear her and say, "Yes, darling daughter, I will abide by that." Of course, he wasn't going to say that. So she just simply said, "Okay, Dad, I told you what's going to happen. Take care, goodbye." And she hung up the phone call. So from that point forwards, after 3 hang-up phone calls, because he stepped over the boundary, and 2 times where she visited, and of course he did it again, and she just simply and easily walked out on him. He pulled his head in, he stopped doing these things, and she was able to have this kind of modified relationship with him. He stopped the terrible behaviour. Her relationship with him was never going to be one of a truly connected, loving father and daughter because he doesn't have the resources, but she was able to see him while she was in her power without him treating her like rubbish. Not because of what he was or wasn't doing, that was unimportant. It was because of what she was choosing as a result of being fully committed to taking the stand for looking after herself. And then there was another wonderful thriver, Don. He was co-parenting his child with a woman who was extremely narcissistic. She'd actually had, because of parenting agreements and they'd had assessments, she was diagnosed with 4 personality disorders, and one of them was narcissism. And she was a nightmare, and she'd been trying everything and anything to destroy Don in court and label him and get authorities against him. And Don had lost so much money, energy, sanity, and he'd previously felt suicidal because he'd been through so much trying to hang in there for the good of their son. It had been 5 years in battle with continual court cases. Don started healing with NARP. And just backtracking a bit, even with those diagnoses, she was still allowed to have 50% custody, which is crazy. Unbelievable. Anyway, Don started healing with NARP and he got very clear about what parallel parenting meant as opposed to co-parenting, because you can't co-parent with narcissists, they don't cooperate. So he started parallel parenting. He set up a third-party communication portal with her, which is our family wizard, and he started communicating in very short, brief ways, such as, this is what I will agree to, and this is what I won't agree to. And he ignored any other communication that didn't fall into, this is what I will agree with. As a result of taking his power back and no longer feeding her narcissistic supply, she lost the plot. She made very aggressive and disgusting comments on our family wizard, which can't be deleted and were admissible in court. Don gained ground. He started getting things in place. She was held to account. The court cases stopped. And most importantly, he got back his sanity, life force, and power. And, you know, the money pit ended where he was just losing his life, his money, his resources, and his sanity. And things started to fall into place for him and his son. Okay, so I know that these 3 steps that I outlined previously may seem really simple, but in reality, they're not. And the reason they're not just simple to activate and do is because of the emotional content that we feel inside of ourselves when triggered by a narcissist. Narcissists know where to hit you inside to get you rushing with cortisol and adrenaline, become derailed, lose your strategy and power, and hand the bullets to them so that they can shoot you with them. And this is why the inner peace, healing yourself to inner peace, is not just important, it's downright vital. Because when you're hijacked by your triggered traumas that the narcissist knows how to hit, of course all of your sensibility goes out the window. Of course you can't just hold the line of strong, calm, clean, anchored empowerment in your body. And here is the thing that's really quite creepy about narcissists. Even if you try to fake these things, meaning you pretend to be calm in their presence and communication with them, but inside you're still feeling triggered, they still parasitically get an energetic feed off you that keeps empowering them to keep attacking you and keep driving you crazy. You need to get this. Narcissistic abuse is a spiritual war. It's about your spirit, your soul, and your psyche. It's a battle between good and evil, literally. And if the word evil is too strong for you, then look at it as light and dark. It's the inner essence of you, your authentic goodness, solidness, and power that is going to win the day. And that's got to start from within. So let's have a look at that inner peace, which is inner peace. Please be very clear. My girlfriend would not have been able to be so cut and dried with her father without the inner work. Originally, before she turned inwards to do the work on herself, she'd felt shattered by his behavior, neglect, selfishness, and the lack of interest in her and her life. She also had been suffering incredible guilt about laying boundaries with him and the fear that maybe he would not love her if she treated him like that. She was also terrified about what the other family members would have thought as a result of laying such an absolute boundary with him. She had to do a lot of inner work on herself to shift out all of these traumas and reprogram them so that she could align with her light and truth and walk it calmly and clearly in her body. And when she did, everything fell into place for her as a result of that. And other family members actually respected what she was doing. And then when we look at Don, Don would not have been able to detach and handle things so calmly in the past. He was highly triggered by her. He was fully engaged and immersed in the battle. And he couldn't stop himself doing it. It was so awful what was going on with his son. He had to face those parts of himself, release and reprogram them to a completely different place on the inside where he was able to win against her. And he got to that place with Narp. This is the bottom line. We think we're needing to win against them, but what we really need to do is win ourselves over. We need to win ourselves back from being hooked in and reacting to them, back to ourselves and back to source, by healing up to completion those parts of ourselves which were previously triggered, handing power away. Because when we change, everything changes. So please know this. When you heal the parts of yourself that were not previously able to be strong, clear, and lay boundaries, you will ignore the narcissist, meaning any of their crap and rubbish. It just won't be your reality anymore. Because there's nothing inside you that's getting triggered to participate. It's gone. Rather, you're just energetically and emotionally aligned with your truth and values, and everything else is irrelevant. That's true power. You don't try to work with the narcissist. You don't try to change them or fix them. You're just powerfully aligned in your truth. And that's the power of truly being able to ignore a narcissist. And that's true evolution. It's so much more, rather than just hiding away, trying to avoid it, and still being triggered and still obsessing about them and having not taken your graduation into your power and truth. I hope that's really clear and you understand the difference. And look at how this improves every area of your life. This is not just about you and the narcissist. This is about your entire life. To get your power back better than you've ever had it, just as myself, my friend, Don, and thousands of others have been able to do in spectacular ways, much quicker than you would think, I'd love you to check out Narp. Humbly, it's the only healing system I know that durably and powerfully gets you to this place from the inside out. So have a look at the link that appears on the screen or check it out in the show notes. And also, I'd like to remind you to like and subscribe to this channel, because then you can get notified about all my new videos, all my lives, question and answer sessions with me, and so much more. All right, I'm so looking forward to your comments and your questions. I hope that this has really hit home for you and really made you understand this calling for you to stand up. And as always, keep smiling, keep healing, and keep thriving, because there is nothing else to do. Lots of love. Bye-bye.